Hey, everybody. Okay, it's a special day here at the Nonprofit Show, isn't it, Edwin?
Absolutely. It's Halloween.
It is Halloween, and so we have a little bit of goofiness going on, but we have a serious topic today, and we've brought the very serious Edwin Harvey on with YPTC, your part time controller, to help us understand that mindfulness might be the new technology. So that's a Halloween title. This isn't a joke, is it?
No, no, very, very serious topic, in fact. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to get onto this toot sweet because we have a lot to talk about. Even though we might look a little goofy, we might be acting a little goofy. This is like you said, Edwin, let me say petting is his support animal. We're going to get into that. I'm dying to know what that's all about. I really am. Hey, we have a lot of amazing partnerships, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Nonprofit Thought Leader, Fundraiser Friday, your part-time controller, where Edwin Harvey joins us from, Third Sector Company, and Clear Impact. I'm, believe it or not, yes, I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy, flying solo today on Halloween. All my other co hosts are out doing the Halloween thing, and nobody could join me today. Or was it that they didn't want to come in costume? I don't know. But Edwin, you showed up perfectly in costume. Introduce us to your little friend here.
This is my giraffe. My son is 2 years old, and I asked him what I should be for Halloween, and he was unequivocal. It had to be a giraffe. So here we are. Here
I
we
love
are.
it. I love it. That's good. Well, from the mind of a 2-year-old, you know that's all good. Well, Edwin, as a department leader of AI solutions and training at your part time controller, talk to us about what you do because I find this is very interesting and certainly unique in the sphere of accountancy.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And it's great to be here. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hope you're all having a fabulous day of costumes and trick or treating. We YPTC has recognized AI as an emerging opportunity and as an emerging risk,
Mm.
and we're getting out ahead of it as much as we can with preparing our staff, assisting our clients, and making the most of it. And that's become a full time role. Just staying current on what AI is, how it's working, and how to use it responsibly. So my job is to assist in all of the different ways and to kind of get everyone aligned about understanding why we're getting involved in this and how to make sure we're doing it productively, effectively, and responsibly.
Wow, that's a heavy lift, especially for an organization that has about 800 employees, all scattered throughout the US. I got to ask this personal question. Do you find that accountants are open to new technologies, or are they, kind of self restricting on this because of the risk? They understand risk like nobody else.
Absolutely, and they understand client service like nobody else, right? This is a group
Yeah.
that's always focused on bringing their skills to help other functions or other organizations do their work. So even if they don't love technology, they're a group that is accustomed to understanding that they need to do it, that they need to learn it, that they need to stay current on it.
Mhm.
Beyond that, there's a wide spectrum, right? We have accountants who love tech and are always up to date on it. And we have those who, like anyone else, may be a little more resistant to it,
Yeah.
but they all understand the need to do it. And I think that's part of why they have me and some other folks on the team
Yeah.
to help them with that.
I think it's really brilliant. And I think that, YPTC has done so many innovative things, but especially where we are navigating towards the actual remote nature, not just of working
Mhm.
with your part-time controller or other, companies that we might, but it's our own employees and then certainly our donors and our stakeholders and even clients. So this is not going away. I mean, this change is here and it's just going to continue to envelop us. So I love that you're navigating this through. I got to move on to the next big question, and that is how does human mindfulness connect to all of this and to technology? I have not heard anyone talk about it in this way before.
Sure. So this is a favorite topic of mine. When we think about mindfulness, there's several aspects to it, and it means many things to many people. Let's be clear about that.
Yes.
But some of the common ones are clarity and purpose, a clarity of purpose, and clarity of goals. Right. So the more clear that we can be about what we want to do and why we want to do it, the more flexible we can be about how to get it done. The more willing we are to look for different tools, different approaches to something. So that's one very important aspect of mindfulness with technology. Another one is self-awareness around emotions and feelings, right? The ability to work alongside our emotions and feelings instead of trying to ignore them. Right? That's a very, very difficult thing to do, but it's not black or white. It's not all or nothing. Every little bit helps. And when we're approaching technology, whether we're someone who gets really excited about it and can get lost in it, or we're someone who's resistant to it and fearful of it, being aware of who we are in a moment can help us to actually create the room to engage it productively. So these are all components of mindfulness that can help with any kind of collaboration, whether that's with a colleague or with a machine.
Wow. I'm like stunned at how you put that together because that is something that um, simplifies things, right? To me, when I hear you speak like that, it reduces some of the fear and makes it seem a lot more logical. And I love that you use the word collaborative because I think a lot of times
Mhm.
we sit in our cubicles in front of our machine, our technology, and we don't appear to be engaging with somebody else. But that's not really the case, is it?
No, and it's becoming less and less the case, and that's part of what We'll maybe get into this a little bit later on, but AI is changing the way that we work with tools. It's
Mm-hmm.
becoming a tool to actually be the interaction, to orchestrate other tools on our behalf, and so it really is becoming a collaboration with a machine to get things done.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating, and I think that's something that I had not expected you to talk about. Along with that, what is this word responsible AI, responsible artificial intelligence? I've been seeing this more and more. And what does this actually mean? And how should we be thinking about it?
Sure. So responsible AI, it does mean a lot of different things in different contexts, and there's a lot of overlap with between responsible AI and things like data privacy, data security.
Okay.
And so we need to kind of, I like to think of it as the all-inclusive, issue. But if there are some things that we need to think about on their own, such as legality, cybersecurity, that sort of thing. But it touches on all those. But the real idea of responsible AI is how do we make sure that when we are engaging artificial intelligence, we are doing so responsibly. We're doing it in a way that maintains our purpose, maintains those goals, and that's part of why it's so important to be mindful in what we're
Mm.
doing. A good example of this, to take a really kind of high level one, but one that can be very scary for folks, is the idea of putting people first in order to keep people first. So if
Mm.
we think about AI as something that can take away the tasks that we're doing all the time, if we follow that path and we like that at first and it sounds great, eventually we're going to hit a point where we're not doing anything and we've become irrelevant, and the AI systems are being more and more designed to do everything for us. And now humans aren't needed anymore, right? To get really dramatic. Alternatively, if we keep thinking, how can we use AI to do more of what we want, right? More of what helps people and organizations thrive, then AI is going to, the development of it is going to follow that path, and it's going to help us do more instead of making us irrelevant.
Okay, I wish you had worn or come to Halloween as a baseball player because I'm going to ask you to put up your catcher's mitt for this wild pitch. Um, how should we be disclosing this use of AI and responsible AI to our employees, to our stakeholders, um, and anybody that's orbiting in our system? Because it seems to me that we have a lot of opportunity to be using it and employing it to our
Mhm.
benefit. Should we disclose that?
Yeah, it's a very timely question, and we're in fact, I think we're in a little bit of a funny moment in history where that is a pressing question.
Mm-hmm.
Before long, AI is going to be so common, right? I
Yeah.
think just today, Apple released an update to its iPhone operating system that includes some initial Apple Intelligence features, and little by little, AI is going to be a presumption. But we're
Mm-hmm.
still at a moment right now where it's new, and that's an issue because it's new to the people that are deploying the technology, and they need to be very careful that they're not doing something they shouldn't. It's also new to people out there who are using it or are being engaged indirectly with it, and so we need to be very sensitive to them. So really, it depends on the context. If there's a particular use case for AI, one of the things you should be thinking about is what impact is it having and on whom? Who are the stakeholder communities involved in this, and what are you doing to engage them beforehand and then to follow up with them on the back end to kind of see the impact that your AI tool is having. I don't have a categorical answer on whether you should always, proactively say to everyone that you're using AI. I think it depends on the degree of impact that particular use case could have. But it certainly doesn't hurt to be open about that and to be able to learn enough about AI responsibility to be able to say confidently that you are approaching it responsibly. And even if it does come up as a surprise, you can show here are all the things we're doing to make sure that we are using that tool responsibly.
It's so interesting. I love what you said about that it is going to be presumptive at some point. Right
Mm-hmm.
now it's new and different, but in the future
Yeah.
it's just going to be a part of how we behave and how we problem solve.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the kind of the risk part that I feel like, YPTC and all your folks probably understand a lot more about this than most. How do we out how do we protect those outside contractors and protect ourselves as
Mm-hmm.
organizations at the same time when we're dealing with clients? I'm thinking about everything from sensitive information that's available that can
Mm-hmm.
find itself into the wrong hands, everything from
Mm-hmm.
HIPAA laws to certainly donor information, all the way down to credit cards or, where their donations are coming from, which accounts. So how do we look at this and try and factor all this in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a couple of different perspectives to think about this from, right? From for the contractors, it's important to set standards for yourself as an organization and stick to those standards, right? And those standards need to address, all the different aspects of responsible AI, putting people first to keep people first, but also
Mhm.
the social and cultural impacts of AI and kind of understand those and decide where you stand and stick to it, and the
Mhm.
environmental impact of AI. Make sure you're using it only when it's actually helpful. You're being judicious about it because of all the resources that it requires. And then you can message that to your clients. And if you stick to it, there's going to be trust there. And
Mhm.
there's a quote out there that trust is the new currency in the AI era, right? And this is part of where all that comes from. From the other perspective, the good news is that it's the same answer, right? Encourage your clients to be setting standards themselves and encourage them to stick to them. Or for an organization, let's get those standards and have them in place so that when we're engaging a contractor, we can say, here are our standards. What do you do to meet them? Or are you upholding the same standards? And we can be sure that we're on the same page. And then one more little thing there is just to be realistic about the costs of responsibility, privacy, and security. It's a little more inconvenient. It's another few seconds of time, and it may potentially be more cost to do, say, multi-factor authentication. But it's a really important thing to do because the risk is so high. So really, it's set standards, stick to them, and have a conversation to make sure you're on the same page between the organization and that contractor.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. And that's probably just, Edwin, good advice, whether we're talking about AI or not, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some of this is just basic, putting up guardrails so that everybody's protected and moving across the field a little bit more logically and with
Hmm.
yeah, just with best practices. I think that's really an interesting kind of way to look at it. This is the next big thing that I've got to ask about, and I have been thinking about this
Hmm.
so often. How do we keep up with these changes? It is so shocking to think how quickly AI is moving in this whole behemoth of gathering information, sorting it, regurgitating it, and then it's just, pulling in more and more power. So how should we think about this? It used to be training was like an annual thing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a training for me is every day, if not multiple times a day, right?
Yeah.
And our, at YPTC, our staff have folks to help them with it. And it's really fun for me to hear them, appreciate that. That's been, a really fun validation for me. But for anyone, right, I'm in this world every day, and yet I think it's just a staggering pace of change. It really is.
Really?
It's the pace of change is increasing exponentially. And since ChatGPT hit the scene a couple of years ago, October-ish 22, fall of 22, the amount of financial investment and research interest, the two go hand in hand, that's kind of gone into AI,
Mhm.
has just been increasing continuously. And so
Mhm.
more and more developments are happening, more hurdles are being overcome, and the technology is advancing, right, really, really rapidly.
Mhm.
So what do we all do about that? Is it
Yeah.
hopeless and the ship has sailed? Well, no. The good news is that we're the cargo, right? So that the ship can't really sail without us, right?
Yeah.
As people, as organizations, as customers, as clients. And so this is our opportunity, but it is going to be very important to say, what is this new way of using tools? Um,
Mhm.
this isn't just about one particular tool, and every day there's a new tool to use. The good news here is that it's learning a new mode of collaboration, a new mode of conversational engagement with
Mhm.
tools, with technology.
Mhm.
And that's something that folks can learn just by kind of tinkering on their own. I would never have encouraged you, some years ago, to go and just try playing around with Excel on the weekend, even if you're not an accountant, and just see if you enjoy it. Right? That's silly. But with
No.
AI,
Yeah.
find a fun way for yourself to try it out. Have a conversation about cooking or learning a new language
Right.
or whatever you're into, right?
Right.
And just get a feel for how that conversation feels. And this goes back to mindfulness. What does
Mhm.
it feel like? Is it awkward and embarrassing to be talking to a machine as if it's a computer? Does it
Mhm.
frighten you? Does it sort of, what's that experience, and become aware of it? And then for most people, they get over a little hurdle, right? A kind of initial bit of discomfort, and then they start to realize, okay, I see what it is, I see how it works, and they start to learn to find ways that it's useful. Folks will often ask, sort of, how well can AI do this, or can it do that, or how do I ask it an effective question? It never asks me for clarifying questions. What do I do about that? And my
Mhm.
answer is, ask it. Ask
Right.
the AI itself. Say, can you do this?
Right.
Say, I'm about to ask you this, and say what you're about to ask, and then say, do you see any ambiguities in there before you go and do it? So as long as you can kind of prompt it yourself, it'll help you. And so the best way is to actually go to the AI itself and say, let's talk. Who are you? And how can you help me? And start to go from there. One, to get a feel for it, and two, to actually learn the tool and learn what it can do.
Right. I think that for me, well, I'll tell you, in our family, to do like a demonstration, one night, my husband opened up his iPad and opened up Chat GPT and said his prompt was like, I have a lemon, fresh squeezed orange juice, half a can of tonic, and some vodka
Mm-hmm.
or gin. What's a good cocktail recipe? And then we stood around and watched it, immediately spit out a couple different recipes, and we thought that was very humorous, and it was. But I think
Yeah.
the lesson that I've learned and how I've been able to use it is with this prompt mindset. To go back to your
Mm-hmm.
word,
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about asking the pre questions, if you will. about ambiguity. Do you need more information? Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That is genius. I'm going to go ahead and really start to envelop that approach with some of the things that I ask, because it's really, to me, the user approach, right? It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
when we first started using email, we had to learn what was appropriate in terms of certain etiquette, right? And then
Sure.
how to get that tool. And I'm talking back in the day. But
Mm-hmm.
now it just seems to me like, to your point, you have to kind of jump in a little bit and use it, and you know, kind of experience it, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it really is a new way of using tools. It really is,
Yeah.
and the only way to learn that is experientially, right? Is to just get it in and try it out. And you brought up another important point there about context, and I think that
Mhm.
speaks back to the mindfulness idea. That's another important thing in mindfulness is what's the context in which I'm making a request, and it could be in a collaboration to another person. It could be in a
Mhm.
collaboration to AI, but we hear a lot about the term hallucination, right? And it frightens people that AI can hallucinate. Why would I trust it? Why would I use it? Well, it's going to hallucinate if you ask it to respond to something it doesn't know anything about. And so mindfulness with respect to AI technology is thinking, what does it know? And is there anything I need to tell it or information I need to share with it in order for it to be able to
Mhm.
respond helpfully. And of course, you can then say, do you already know anything about XYZ before I go to ask you to do this? If not, here's a whole, big fat PDF on that topic, and now help me out. Right.
Yeah, that I think is absolutely fascinating. Do you know anything about XYZ? And then going from there. Very, very interesting. I also think, Edwin, too, is that, as with anything, it's generally not black or white. It takes um, collaboration. You would never, even in Excel, you would never just hit a button and then believe everything that it spits out. You're going to review it. You're going to check to make sure that you put the right data in, garbage out, right? I mean, you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
just blindly turn over things. So I think this is a part of that mindset, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And this is a part of responsible AI is
Mhm.
thinking ahead in any given AI application. Where does a human need to be involved? Where does a person need to be involved? Is it at the beginning? Is it the middle? Is it the end? Is it throughout?
Mhm.
Because we like to think of them as YPTC. We think of AI as a junior coworker or as
Okay.
an intern, right? And it's important to think that that's a highly talented, right, junior coworker, one who's read pretty much everything ever written, and yet they're new, and we need to be very, and they're sometimes overly confident, right? And so we need to think about what we're asking them to do, what information we're providing to them, and we need to be monitoring their work and their product, and to be thinking again about the impact that product is happening, once it's actually, to kind of, depending on what it is, where it ends up, who else is seeing it, what communities are involved with it, and how's it impacting them.
Right. Okay, so now I asked you, I had mentioned earlier, it's too bad that you hadn't worn a baseball outfit or baseball uniform because of my curveball that I threw you. Now I'm going to ask, if you had worn the costume of Houdini, what would you be thinking about for the future when you take your crystal ball and you shine it up? What
Mhm.
would you think? I mean, with something technology that they say is changing every 6 hours,
Mhm.
um, how do you even think about the future, or can you identify some things that we should be thinking about?
Yeah. So I'll the quick answer and then the real answer. The quick answer is learn comfort with engaging in these tools.
Okay.
Just because there's so much opportunity there. Not because they're going to take over the world and you won't have a choice, nothing like that. It's just about saying there's lots of opportunity for folks who are comfortable using these tools. So take that leap and try it out. The bigger answer is that I can't see the future, and I'm working really hard to mindfully accept that. And so what can I do to kind of, just be in the moment and think about what I'm trying to achieve and what tools are out there to help. And as those evolve in any given day, be flexible and willing to explore new ones.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really it. Who am I and what do I want to do? And then the future ought to take care of itself.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a good way to live, because it seems to me if you take a different approach, it becomes incredibly stressful and
Mhm.
arduous, and you're just like chasing your tail versus kind of being more receptive to what changes are out there and how you can improve. So, very, very interesting discussion. I think that you've got to be seeing people reduce their stress and their fear with just a little bit of engagement. I mean, is that fair
Mhm.
to say?
Absolutely, right. I mean, it's hard to find anyone who's not experienced the idea of avoiding something, and the stress increases the longer you avoid it. But once we
Yeah.
take that first step, that tiny little first step, where we just sit down and start doing it, a lot of it dissipates. Not all of it, right? But a lot of that stress dissipates, and it's like, okay, it's real now. It's not all of the crazy stuff that I'm imagining. It's a little weird. It's a little new, but it's real and it's tangible and it's manageable. And so, yeah, just trying it out a little bit will just kind of make it real, and then that path, forward will emerge. You'll kind of find your interests, and your interests will guide where you want to take it.
Yeah, how you want to use it. I think right now, for anybody watching in the nonprofit sector, one of the starting points for me is just looking at the use of AI with content creation. As
Mm-hmm.
simple as things that you might need to do with reports or grant applications, certainly just social
Mm-hmm.
media, marketing and communications. I mean, you can take some really basic things and lessons and kind of get your feet wet, because those are easy things to check and to verify the veracity of a paragraph, and how it's articulating and communicating what your message is a lot easier
Mm-hmm.
than maybe a spreadsheet or numbers or data. But
Mm-hmm.
to get started, and it's to use your word, that mindset, embrace that mindset, because this isn't going away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. If you're generating content, use AI to help you. And it
Yeah.
may be in some cases you want to use AI to get from the blank page to a first draft that you can then workshop, because editing feels way easier than first drafting. In other cases, it's going to be the opposite. It's really important for you to use your own voice to generate that first draft and
Yeah.
then edit it so that the AI didn't put your voice on an artificial direction from the beginning. Um, but one way or another, there's probably a place somewhere in there that it can help, and that'll be your way in, and then you can kind of grow from there.
Yeah. Well, and I'm fascinated by using in Chat GPT prompts that include tone.
Hmm.
Make this humorous, make this scientific, make this sound like a third grader, make this sound like an old man. I mean, it's
Hmm.
kind of an interesting aspect of that. It can add some filters in there for you in terms of that content creation. Well, Edwin, this has been fascinating, and I think that this is just the beginning of our conversation.
Yeah.
It's a kooky conversation to have on a kooky Halloween day. Kind of makes sense. I'm going to say thank you, partner, to that. And you've been just really interesting, and I'm fascinated that at an accounting and financial services company would actually have this type of thought leadership. I think that, if nothing else, tells you about how important this is and where we are going in our nonprofit sector. So, really been fun. Edwin Harvey, PhD, department leader of AI solutions and training at your part-time controller. You can learn more about Edwin and the group that he works with and all of the other amazing folks at YPTC.com. I want to give a shout out to all of the YPTC folks that were recently in my community in Phoenix, Arizona, and were so gracious to invite me to give a quick little chat during their lunch break just this last Friday. They were in from the region and having a training opportunity where they were talking about all sorts of things. And so it was really fun to meet folks, several of YPTC members, Edwin, who had been guests on the nonprofit show, but we'd never met in real life. And so that was really fun to get in front of these folks and to be in a room of 150 people that I'd never met before, but I had some sort of connection to, right? And so that was a lot of fun, a lot of fun. Again, check out yptc.com. This is not the only conversation that we're going to have about this topic. It's really something that is necessary for us to understand, to reduce our fear, and as Edwin brilliantly brought up, really focus our mindset on and to adopt and adapt at the same time. So this has been a great conversation. I also want to make sure that we give a shout out of gratitude to all of our presenting sponsors, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Nonprofit Thought Leader, Fundraisers Friday, Your Part-Time Controller, Third Sector Company, and Clear Impact. These are the folks that join us month in, month out, day in, day out, as we move, Edwin, almost 1,200 episodes.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Yeah. So, you know, being around numbers people all day, I had to bring that up for you.
I appreciate it.
Edwin, you've been a great sport. The Halloween episode is always kooky. We really love our friends at Your Part-Time Controller because they show up, and any guy that shows up with a giraffe costume that a 2-year-old recommended, he's fine by me.
Thanks very much for having me on. This was great.
It was a lot of fun. Hey, everybody, as we end every episode of the Nonprofit Show, we end with this message, and it goes like this: to stay well so you can do well. See you again.